Hello, Tech families. Welcome to the skills lesson scheduled for Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. Today, we're going to complete Unit 6, Lesson 22. Now, as always, there are a couple of expectations for your habits during the video lessons. 1, make sure that you're in a quiet space. If you're not there yet, go ahead and pause the video to find a quiet space. And once you're there, press play to continue. Now that you're in a quiet place, there's just two other things that we need to remember. Make sure that you're sitting up nice and tall to enhance that focus, and that you keep your eyes on the screen throughout the duration of the video. If you are ready with all three of those expectations, you can give me a thumbs up. Good, and now we can continue with the rest of our video. For today's lesson, you're going to need a couple of items. First, you're going to need your skills book, and in that book, activity pages 22.1, 22.2, and 22.3. You're also going to need your War of 1812 reader and a pencil. Please go ahead and pause the video now to gather all three of those materials. Remember that if you don't have the physical copy, that you can access it online. Take the time now to grab those materials, and once you have them all, press play and we'll continue. Our major points of focus today will be reading and writing. For reading, we're going to read a story called Francis Scott Key and the National Anthem. And then we're going to answer some text-dependent questions about the story. We'll go into that a little more later once it's time. And then for your writing focus, we get to learn about a topic sentence. Say, ooh la la. To start us off, we're going to begin with a partner read. Now, this is going to look a little bit differently just because we're not in person and don't have our partners right next to us. So here's how it's going to work. I will show you a page, and then I will read that page. Then I will show you the second page. At that point, we're going to pause the video to give you time to read the page, being sure to practice reading with lots of fluency and expression. For a model, be sure to listen to my voice as I read the first page and try your best to model that same type of fluency and expression as you read. As I read the first page, be sure to follow along in a whisper read so that you can already begin to practice reading with fluency and expression. Chapter 8, Francis Scott Key and the National Anthem. On September 13th, 1814, British ships opened fire on Fort McHenry. They fired rockets and mortars. The soldiers in the fort would have fired back, but there was not much point. The guns in the fort were old. They could not hit the British ships. The British ships kept firing for a long time. They fired all day. They fired on into the night. This image shows the British firing on Fort McHenry from far away. Now it is your turn to read. You can pause the video now to take time to read this page to yourself. Make sure to read aloud and model that same expression and fluency that you heard me reading with. We'll spend about 3 minutes on this page. You can go ahead and pause the video now. If you have not yet finished reading page 72, please pause the video now to continue reading the page and then press play once you have finished. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move on to page 74. Make sure you're listening to the type of fluency and expression that I use as I'm reading, and be sure to follow along. At night, it was harder for Key to see, but there were flashes of light. Sometimes a rocket would go streaking through the darkness. Sometimes a bomb would explode and light up the sky. The flashes of light allowed Key to see the flag. The firing went on until just before dawn. Then it stopped. The sun had not come up yet. It was still dark. There were no rockets blasting. There were no bombs bursting in the air. Key could not see much. The silence was puzzling. What did it mean? Was the battle over? Had the soldiers in the fort given up? Key could not tell. Key waited nervously. At last, the sun rose. Key looked at the fort, and what did he see? The soldiers had raised the huge flag that Mrs. Pickersgill had made. It was not the U.S. soldiers who had given up. It was the British sailors. They had stopped firing on the fort. Key felt a surge of joy. He felt pride, too. The brave men in the fort had not given up. When the sun rose on Fort McHenry, Francis Scott Key saw that the American flag was still flying. Please pause the page now to read this page with just as much fluency and expression. Once you are done reading page 76 and the caption with the picture, press play for the rest of our lesson. You can pause the video now. Excellent job with your partner read. Thank you for taking the time to completely read, because I know and you know that that's going to help you better understand the story. Now, before we move on to questions about the story, I want you to take a little moment to summarize the story. What was this text mostly about? You can pause the video now to share with someone nearby. What was this story about? When you're finished sharing your summary, press play, and then we will begin to answer some questions about the story. You can pause the video now. Questions, though, I do want to briefly review my own summary with you all. I know that you guys took time to share, but I just want to give us another summary in case we missed any key parts. The main idea of the chapter is that Francis Scott Key watched the attack on Baltimore from a boat in the harbor. He knew if he could see the U.S. flag flying at Fort McHenry, the Americans had not been defeated or had not given up. Before dawn the next morning, everything was quiet, but Key couldn't see in the dark, so he didn't know what the quiet meant. When the sun rose, he saw the flag flying. He felt such joy that he wrote a poem describing what he had seen. The first part of the poem became the national anthem of the United States. Welcome back from your summary. So now, friends, we're going to move into answering text-dependent questions. And that's just a fancy way of saying finding text evidence. I'm going to ask you a question and show you a matching page from the story. It's going to be your job to use the story to find your answer. Okay, here is our first question. Where was Francis Scott Key during the attack on Baltimore? Before we get started, though, we want to make sure that we're rephrasing the question just like we've been practicing during academic enrichment. During the attack on Baltimore, Francis Scott Key was Now, I want you to go ahead and pause the video to look for the text evidence to support your thinking and to share your answer with someone. Your answer should sound just like our first rephrase. During the attack on Baltimore, Francis Scott Key was Go ahead and pause the video now to find and share your answer. Once you have found your answer and shared it, press play to see if you selected the correct answer. Now, when I go back into the text, I see a key line of evidence that gives us that answer. An American named Francis Scott Key watched the British attack. He was on a boat in the harbor. Because we found that evidence, now we can answer our question. During the attack on Baltimore, Francis Scott Key was on a boat in the harbor. If you got that one right, give yourself a pat, pat, pat on the back, back, back. We have another question from this same page. What would it mean if the US flag went down at Fort McHenry? Once again, remember to rephrase the question into your answer statement. If the US flag went down at Fort McHenry, it would mean that You can go ahead and pause the video to search for and then share your answer with someone nearby. Once you have found your answer, press play. In the text we see, if the flag went down, that would mean America was no longer fighting. That would mean that the troops in the fort had given up. And so now that we found our answer, we can go ahead and answer the question. If the US flag went down at Fort McHenry, it would mean that America was no longer fighting and that the troops in the fort had given up. Let's go ahead and move on to another page in the story. Reread the second paragraph on page 74. Describe why the silence was puzzling to Key. So now we're going to reread this paragraph together with a special focus on figuring out why the silence was so puzzling to Key. Be sure that you're reading along with me. The firing went on until just before dawn. Then it stopped. The sun had not come up yet. It was still dark. There were no rockets blasting. There were no bombs bursting in the air. Key could not see much. The silence was puzzling. What did it mean? Was the battle over? Had the soldiers in the fort given up? Key could not tell. And so now that we've reread the paragraph, we can begin to answer the question, first starting with our rephrase. The silence was puzzling to Key because, Go ahead and pause the video now to find some evidence from this paragraph to help explain why the silence was so puzzling. You can pause the video now and press play once you have found your text evidence. So in paragraph 2, we see the silence was puzzling. What did it mean? Was the battle over? Had the soldiers given up? Had the soldiers in the fort given up? Key could not tell. And so now is a point where we're going to have to add in an inference, which means our own thinking. We see some of the questions that follow the sentence saying that the silence was puzzling. What did it mean? Was the battle over? Had the soldiers in the fort given up? Key could not tell. And so I would answer that question by saying, the silence was puzzling to Key because he could not tell if the battle was over. Now, let's go ahead and answer our last text-dependent question. What did Key need to tell the others? Go ahead and pause the video now to skim briefly through the page to help find what Key needed to tell the others. Be sure to answer in a complete sentence by rephrasing the question. Key needed to tell the others. Go ahead and pause the video now to find your evidence and to share your thinking. When you are finished, press play to continue. In the text we see, he hoped to share with others what he had seen. He needed to tell what it was like to wait and wait. And so now we can answer our question. Key needed to tell the others what it was like to wait and wait. So now, friends, we're going to switch to our writing focus for today. Let's read the following sentence together. A paragraph is a group of sentences on the same topic. In order to get some practice with identifying paragraphs, we're going to need your reader. I know that you grabbed it earlier, but I'm going to need you to pause the video in just a few moments to turn to page 60. Once you are on page 60, you can press play to continue with the rest of the video. Please go ahead and pause the video now to turn to page 60 in your reader. Now, once again, as a reminder, a paragraph is a group of sentences on the same topic. The beginning of a paragraph is indented, and every paragraph begins on a new line. Let's go ahead and count the number of paragraphs on this page. Notice that there is an indented space at the beginning of this paragraph and an indented space at the beginning of this paragraph. Because there are two indented spaces, we see that there are 1, 2 paragraphs on this page. As we move on, remember that an indented space shows us the beginning of a paragraph. Let's count the paragraphs on another page. Go ahead now and turn your page to page 62. You can pause the video now to count the paragraphs. Once you've counted the paragraphs, you can press play to see if you counted the correct number of paragraphs. Go ahead and pause now and then press play when you're ready. Okay, get ready to count. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 paragraphs on this page. Remember that each paragraph starts with an indented space, and we see that here right before Baltimore, right here before the word the, and right here before the word the again. Go ahead and pause the video. Or actually, I don't think we need time to pause the video. How many paragraphs are on this page? You can show with your fingers. Get ready. Yes, there are 2 paragraphs. We see an indented space before the word a, and we see another indented space before the word the. You can show me on your fingers the number of paragraphs on this page. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 paragraphs on this page because we see 4 indented spaces. And on this final page, let's count the paragraphs together. Get ready. 1, 2. We see 2 paragraphs or groups of sentences on the same topic on this page because, once again, there are 2 indented spaces, and I'm pointing to the first one now, and now I'm pointing to the second indented space. Now that you've put a box around your first topic sentence, let's examine the next 2 paragraphs. You can follow along with me as I read the second paragraph. Joyce is not good at singing. When she sings, she can never seem to hit the right notes. If she is supposed to sing high, Joyce sings low. If Joyce is supposed to sing low, Joyce sings high. Even Joyce's dog runs away when she sings. All right, and so remember that a paragraph is a group of sentences on the same topic. And a topic sentence is one sentence, usually the first, that tells what the paragraph is mostly about. Now let's go ahead and underline that first sentence. Joyce is not good at singing. As I read each of the following sentences, you can show a thumbs up or a thumbs down to show if it's related to the first sentence about Joyce not being good at singing. When she sings, she can never seem to hit the right notes. Go ahead and show your thumbs up or thumbs down. Yep, that's related to the first sentence. If she's never hitting the right notes, we know that she's not that great at singing. Let's read the next sentence. If she is supposed to sing high, Joyce sings low. We have another sentence talking about how she is not good at singing. If she is supposed to sing low, Joyce sings high. We have another sentence that's related to Joyce not being the best singer. And lastly, even Joyce's dog runs away when she sings. Well, we know if that dog is running away, Joyce must not be very good at singing. And so, because all of the sentences in this paragraph relate back to that first sentence, we know that it is our topic sentence. You can go ahead and pause the video now to put a box around the topic sentence for the second paragraph. Once you're done with your box, press play to continue. And I'll give you about 10 seconds to put a box around that topic sentence. Let's read our third paragraph. Hugo is good at drawing. In fact, he once won a drawing contest. Hugo drew a car for the contest, but he can draw all sorts of things. If you ask Hugo to draw an animal or a person or a plant, his drawing will look just like the real thing. He is the best artist I know. Now, rather than us reviewing together, I want you to go ahead and pause the video to try to identify the topic sentence. Once you have identified the topic sentence, you can press play to see if you correctly answered. You can pause the video now. Welcome back from identifying your topic sentence. We see that Hugo is good at drawing is the first sentence, and then when we read through all of the sentences, every other sentence was something that told us about how good Hugo was at drawing, and so Hugo is good at drawing is our topic sentence. So now that we've practiced our reading and writing focus for the day, it is time to show what you know. Say it. Good. So now you are going to need your activity book once again. Please go ahead and pause the video now to turn to page 22.2. And then after we review 22.2, we're going to review 22.3. Let's look at the directions for page 22.2. Build the sentences. Rewrite the following sentence 6 times, adding a little more detail each time. Jack picked it up. What did Jack pick up? Now, because I want to add more detail to it, I'm going to start with the first sentence, Jack picked it up. And then I'm going to add more to my sentence to answer, what did Jack pick up? And so my sentence would look something like this. Jack picked up a can. Moving on to number 2, now I'm adding even more detail to answer why did Jack pick it up? Jack picked up a can because he needed to recycle. Now, when it is your turn to complete this page, you're not going to use my sentences because I want your ideas to come from your own brain. But something that will help you on each sentence is rephrasing the question just like we've been working on in academic enrichment. What did Jack pick up? Jack picked up a Take a moment to think. What is something that Jack could have picked up? Okay. Now that you have your thought, go ahead and whisper it into your hand. Jack picked up a. Whisper it into your hand. Okay, and you will fill in the line to answer whatever you choose for Jack to have picked up. Moving on to number 2, why did Jack pick it up? You're going to take your first sentence and add more detail to explain why Jack picked it up. Jack picked up a because could be your sentence stem. For the rest of 22.2, you are going to add in more detail to answer each question. What did Jack do with the thing that he picked up? When did Jack pick it up? How did Jack pick it up? What did Jack do after he picked it up? Your job will be to rewrite each of the questions into a full sentence, adding a little more detail each time. Do not begin yet. At the end of the video, I will tell you when to start working on activity page 22.2. Now, let's look at the directions for page 22.3. You can turn to that page now, and I'll give you about 5 seconds. The directions here say to find the hidden message by completing each sentence with a word from the box. Then match the numbers to the letters to reveal a secret message just for you. We can do number 1 together. We had lunch in the... Which of these words makes the most sense? We had lunch in the spaghetti? No. We had lunch in the lollipop? No. We had lunch in the cafeteria? Well, that makes sense, but let's make sure to read through the rest of the options first. We had lunch in the chili? Nope. We had lunch in the broccoli. Nope. We had lunch in the Italian. That doesn't make sense either. We had lunch in the salami. Nope. We had lunch in the zucchini. Nope. We had lunch in the kiwi. Nope. We had lunch in the pizza. Nope. None of those options made sense either, so it is fitting that cafeteria fits in the blank. We had lunch in the cafeteria. And so now for your secret message, you are going to take the numbered blanks and use the letter above to fill in. For example, for 3, we see an E, and so we'll plug it in there. I'm not going to show you the rest of them for this page because I want you to figure that out independently. Once you write in the word on the blank, take the number that is underneath each letter and fill it in to reveal your secret message. For your exit pass today, you are going to complete page 22.2 and 22.3. However, you only need to upload 22.2 to Class Dojo. Only 22.2 needs to be uploaded. I trust that we're going to show integrity by still completing 22.3, although we don't have to upload it. You can go ahead and stop the video now to complete 22.2 and 22.3. Be sure to upload 22.2 to Class Dojo. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to learn with me. I cannot wait to see all of your detailed sentences tomorrow.